So, good afternoon, everyone. You're tuned into BLAAHBLAAH at STAAH, and today we have Matt Dybing, co-founder and director at Nuvho Hotels. So,
Hi,
it's a
how you
pleasure to
doing?
welcome Matt.
Thank you, Edwin.
Cool. So, we'll fire off some few questions at the beginning, and at the end, we've got a bit of a rapid fire questions as well to know more about you. So, so let's begin, Matt. I've met you several times in person, and always when I'm in Australia, I always see that enthusiasm and drive whenever I speak to you. So one of the first questions I have is, how do you inspire Matt Dybing every morning?
You can give me a strong coffee, that will help. And a croissant if you want, if you're nice. You obviously I'm French. Yeah, look. I think I'm alive, and I wake up every morning. Well, I've got a 5-year-old as well that likes to wake me up early, because he is full of life, and the 11-year-old that we've got, Julien, as well. So now look, what inspired me in the morning is go and have a yarn with them. First of all, go and have a chat with Connie, my wife, and the kids. And then, look, I'm blessed enough to work in the industry that I'm working in, and I love what I do. It's as simple as that. So I wake up, I'm naturally motivated. I'm driven. I've always been. Started working on markets when I was 14 years old. I've always seen my dad, always working, being an entrepreneur, and doing all this. So it just comes naturally. And then I believe also in what we do. We created Nuvho, we created Herobi 80/20 hotel conference. And every day I can actually see the difference that my team is making to our clients, to our hotels. And I think, that drives me to do better.
And talking about 80/20 conference, and that's where I think our connection started. So what motivated you to start this conference, the successful conference in Brisbane every year?
I think there was a need in the market. Most of the conferences were held in Sydney, Melbourne. And you had Queensland, you've got more independent hotels in Queensland than anywhere else in Australia. And a lot of them are mums and dads. They can't really go and afford to leave their business for too long, especially flying to Melbourne, flying to Sydney, which can be quite expensive too. So we thought there was a need, there was a gap, and there was the opportunity to create a conference here in Queensland. And we took that opportunity, and I'm pleased to say that we're starting now to think about doing more events in secondary capital cities. So we're thinking about Perth, we're thinking about Adelaide, Hobart, and Queensland, potentially do North Queensland as well as Brisbane. So stay tuned, because this is coming in a club near you. We potentially will launch this over the next year, every quarter.
I'm looking forward to coming for it next year, if the borders open.
It will. That's Queensland just reopened to New South Wales and Victoria. So we pretty much almost got the whole of Australia open to each other. We need New Zealand at some point, and I'm sure that will be over the next few months.
So one of the things which I was keen to ask, that what are the few things that you learned in your career that sort of help you push you forward? As they say, it's quite challenging in hotels. There are various aspects. What sort of things which you learned right from the basic foundation, sort of that built you up as a stronger Matt?
I think if I had 3 takeaways from that, the first one is nothing is given to you on a platter. You cannot start a career and expect to be a manager or a CEO in the next five years. I've started, as I said, on markets, flower markets, when I was 14 years old, and that taught me a certain resilience. Then I think that up to the age of 30 is pretty much experimentation. If I had an advice to anybody who, would be to do what you love, because then you wake up every morning and you're happy doing it. I think the second thing is that I've learned never to compromise my values. I think, integrity, reputation, you know, honesty, the way you treat others, etc. All those things are forming who you are as a person. And I think that that's what I've learned from great mentors. Integrity, the way you conduct yourself in relationship, the way you treat people is the most important. Then it brings about the leadership. You get to a certain space and your career is about 50, 60, 70 years old, to be honest. You know, if I started at 14 and I'm going to end up maybe retiring at some point at 70, that's 65 years, you know, of having to deal with people, having to build a reputation for people to recognize who you are. And I think to me, you need to lead by example, and you do the right thing on everything you do, because people are looking sometimes up to you, or it could be your children, it could be people, your friends, etc. And I think what I don't want to be remembered is for my work. I want to be remembered as a person, as a human being, having friends, having done the right thing, having looked after people. I think that's what's most important to me. That's what success is all about, is, you know, being able to have a laugh with people, and, you know, them wanting to have a chat with you. I think that's the most important thing.
So you're talking about leadership as well. So what's your leadership style like? You know, you're in the tech hub, you're in the entrepreneurial hub, then you're in the leadership. So what is your style? Does it keep on changing? Or?
Yeah, well, it does actually. I don't think there's one style. I think, you know, it's been defined in textbooks as, you know, authoritarian, diplomatic, and so on. I think first and foremost, every situation is different, and you need to deal with different people as well. So the leadership style needs to be different. Now, a leader as well is a leader, first and foremost, needs to look after people. What I believe is that a good leader is altruist. Ultimately, he puts people above himself. You know, it is something where you need to forfeit your best interest, or first and foremost interest, for the benefit of others. And I believe in karma. And so therefore, I believe that as you do this more and more often, you build around you a positive environment where people recognize that, and they do things for you as well at the same time. And so a leader is somebody that can inspire others, do the right thing, lead by example, you know, wake up motivated. All it is though underlying this is being respectful, transparent, I think, and honest, have some integrity. And it comes back to the compromising of value. If you don't compromise on your values, then, you know who you are, most importantly, and, you know, you probably will behave in a certain way that will inspire others and will lead others to do the same thing. So that's, you know, convoluted way to say that I think my leadership style is to be adaptable and to be honest, and, you know, show integrity, do the right thing, and lead by example.
Good. So, you know, you started your own company, of course, co-founded as well. What are the sort of challenges you had to overcome, you know, and sort of how did you adapt? If you can share some few tips on that, would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky enough to meet Jude and Sandra, who were my business partners, and I met Jude, you know, by chance. He lives in the same suburb as me, and one day my wife, we were looking to renovate. We moved to Brisbane from Sydney. We bought a house we wanted to renovate, and my wife really liked the windows of two houses in the suburb, and one of them was Jude's. So she tells me one day, she said, look, if you see him in the front of his house, or if you see somebody, she says them where they got their windows. And one day, you know, there was a lady in the front of the house. I asked that, and, you know, Jude came out and she spent a bit of time, and we ended up talking, and, you know, one thing led to another. We found out that we were working in the hospitality industry, and that we were, you know, thinking about similar things. And 2 weeks later, we were in business together. 2 weeks later, I left my job. I just thought, you know, I was lucky enough to be in a financial situation that allowed me this. Connie was going back to work after having young kids. And so the time was right, the timing was right. He was my staff one day, became my client the next, became my boss the next, ultimately. And that person trusted me, knew what I could do, and she said, we'll give you a startup point. Finished that assignment, and I'm thinking, I need to find my next lunch. And, you know, phone calls, a friend calls me and say, look, we need a bit of help here. You've been working for brands and for large hotel chain. Why not helping us out, creating certain things? And from there, you build a reputation. From there, I entered through different friends, Fabian, for example, and Jackie at STAAH. You start meeting people that give you an opportunity to get a bit of exposure and so on. And all of a sudden, you find that people look at your philosophy, look at where you are and who you are and your expertise, and say, well, we can have a little bit of that would be nice. And so we built that business. And Jude was doing the same thing, Sandra was doing the same thing. But I was doing revenue, Sandra was doing sales, Jude was doing development and feasibility and so on. And we thought, why not combine all this into one business? And that became Nuvho Hotels.
It's one of the questions, as you know, with COVID hitting the travel industry the hardest. What do you think this will affect us in the future, talent in there? What are your take on that?
Look, from a talent perspective, is actually abundant at the moment, unfortunately. Because you've got hotels that around the world are still closed. You've got a lot of Australians still overseas that lost their job and coming back from Europe, and they are looking for jobs here as well. I believe that it's a moment of growth for us, and we will be hiring, and we got plenty of talent to choose from. But I also believe that hospitality is very resilient. It's COVID today, but it was SARS before. It was 9/11. There was the GFC. And the industry rebounded. You can already see in China, you can already see in Australia, you've got and I'm sure in New Zealand as well, all leisure destinations are booming at the moment.
You're tuned into BLAAHBLAAH at STAAH with Matt Dybing, co-founder and director at Nuvho Hotels. So Matt, we're now going to come to the end part. We're going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Okay, go for it.
So there are a list of 5 questions in there, and we try to make it as short and snappy as possible.
Okay.
It says, one of the first ones, it says, if you could teach any grade or subject in school, what would that be?
Geez, history.
Okay. That's good. I'm an history student myself. So
yeah, are you? Okay.
Yeah. I did my master's years ago, but anyway.
Right.
A favorite book of all times.
Influence the psychology. Look, the 7 Habits of Successful People. Okay. And influence the psychology of persuasion.
What is your least favorite type of music?
Hard rock, potentially.
Are you a morning or an evening person?
Morning.
I think you summarized that earlier in your questions itself.
Yeah.
And this is the last one. As you know, we are going to be in the silly season itself. Did you ever believe in Santa Claus?
Oh, yes, I did.
I did. That's nice.
I still do believe in it. I don't believe in the person, but I believe in the spirit of it.
Oh, that's nice. So I'm sure you've not been naughty this year, and probably Santa will be giving you some gifts.
No, you need to ask some other people about that. I feel I'm good, but I'm not sure what other people will say about that.
especially not your spouse.
Yeah, no, better not to ask. No.
Okay, cool. So that ends our session at the BLAAHBLAAH at STAAH, Matt, and we're really honored. And it is a pleasure to have you here with us, and look forward to meeting you in person in the near future.
Yeah, look, 80/20 is in June, so I'm looking forward to seeing you then.
Okay, brilliant.
I'm sure we'll be open by then. Okay, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.